You need to know how to use it, and you need to use it strategically. It's no longer an option.
What is up? And happy mold day if you're into chemistry. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur or innovator every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, digital marketing dude at Hippo Direct, and you can reach me at max@hippodirect.com for help using your podcast as a marketing tool. This is episode number 65, and today's guest is Cynthia Johnson, aka Cynthia Live on social media. She's been named a top personal branding expert by Entrepreneur and also been featured in Forbes, Adweek, Inc., and many more top outlets. You'll hear her top tips on personal branding and breaking through the clutter, and even some tips from her book Platform, which is all about the art and science of personal branding. You'll also hear how she navigates extremely complex client challenges at her marketing and PR firm, Bell+Ivy. It's time to go live. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Cynthia Johnson, Cynthia Live, the one and only, the co-founder of Bell+Ivy, author, speaker, much, much more. I'm just going to start inventing titles for you just to add to the list. But Cynthia, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be fun.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for joining. So you have been up to an incredible amount of things, and from time and time again, you're known as one of the top personal branding experts. But before we get into that, let's start before you went to college and before you got into your professional career. What do you think you'd be doing? Can you give us a little bit of background of what your childhood was like and what you thought you might be doing when you grew up?
Yes. So that's a really good question. To give you an example, when I was in elementary school, there was asked to write this paper about what you wanted to be when you grew up, and I wrote that I wanted to be Judge Judy because she was a lawyer and also on television. And I was like, that's amazing. She just gets to do her job like at an epic level all day long. And from there, I kind of when in high school, I was in things like debate and did a lot of theater stuff. And I worked because I actually grew up I went to high school in Las Vegas, or right outside of Las Vegas. So I ended up taking a job working for a hypnotist. And then I did marketing for brands like Carrot Top and Amazing Jonathan. And then I went to college to be a stunt choreographer.
Seriously?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was my first. Certification course. And then I graduated in 2008 when the economy fell apart, so that wasn't going to work anymore.
So you had the classic Judge Judy to stunt choreographer to recession path.
Yeah, my whole thing was that I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted to do, and it felt like jobs really limited your ability to figure stuff out on your own, be curious and have fun. And so I kept going after these roles or these positions that I thought would give me that thing, that like freedom to really explore and have fun and have an impact on things. And I found out very quickly that is not acting. You're basically, I felt pretty much like a professional waiter because, you wait around, and not even just like waiting tables. Sometimes like you wait around for jobs. You wait around for auditions, you wait around for callbacks, and then you wait to get paid like a really long time. And so it was like, it was just this whole waiting game that I couldn't really get into. And from there, I went back to school and I studied Mandarin and business. And I was going to open nightclubs in Shanghai. So
of course, I was going to guess that.
So I thought, oh wow, what a market! And so I spent a lot of time going back and forth there while studying, and ended up taking a job in live stream a company. It said that they were in Asian markets, which is why I applied, and I ended up really loving it. then I took this like 6-month backpacking trip off. And while I was away, I was doing and teaching people how to use social media for their hostels and their tour companies. And I was like, whoa, this is freedom. You can just go anywhere you want and do and help. And everyone in the world needs this thing, the internet. And you don't need an office. You just need a laptop and Wi-Fi. And it was really eye-opening. So I came back, and that's kind of when I just dove in to learning more about the internet.
The internet. Yeah. Could you explain that? I'm not too familiar with it. Mm-hmm. What is that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of where your pivot point of where you said, oh, you know what, I'll do something, I'm tired of being a TV judge. I'm tired of being a choreographer. I'm tired of learning Mandarin. I need to do something, business or with the internet. But you've covered so many different hobbies, and there's obviously a lot of different passion areas there. What is it about the internet and this marketing and branding space that really appealed to you and ultimately won you over?
Autonomy, really. It's fast and it changes all the time, and you can get in and get out whenever you want. And there's really, until you get very specific, there's really no one who's more of an expert than someone else could be if they really applied themselves. And so, I loved that I could do it anywhere. I loved that I could get to anyone, and it is easily applied to almost every other industry or every other type of hobby or career. And so I get to kind of be that curious person and learn a lot about other industries through being able to do this.
Why do you think you are so naturally curious and open to trying so many different things? What can you point to?
Yeah, well, my grandfather, who I was very close with, he passed away recently, but he was a very curious person, and he was also just such an, I think, influence. But he went from he was in the military, he was an intelligence officer, and then he was mayor in Fort Lauderdale, and then he was the head chef of the first 7 Super Bowls and the Marriott. And then he was a painter. And he was really good at painting. He ran for Congress. He owned stores. He drove cross country 1,000 times. And
so I see. Yeah, I'm starting to put it together now of how you're growing up with the influence of your grandpa, who's trying so many different things and excelling at so many different things. That's got to fire you up and make you want to try so many different things. So that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, and he just and also when you see people change and not fail, it's like, oh. Just it's addition by subtraction. I'm not giving up something I worked for. I'm just moving on. I'm moving past it, and it doesn't mean you can't use the tools from the previous thing, but you don't have to stay somewhere because you've already stayed so long. You can change and pivot and move and be, creative in your own life story. And so seeing it being done reinforces, I think, that natural inclination we all probably have as kids that we just suppress, and so yeah, that was definitely a big part of it.
You alluded to getting into the internet side and sort of the marketing side of things, and ultimately you learned to excel at personal branding, both on your own end, but also with the clients that you help out and coach and consult from that standpoint. So what is it about personal branding that appealed so much to you?
So I was a partner at an agency that was acquired by a public company, and I took over this executive role of brand development, and I managed alumni events, social media, and all. It was insane. I went from not really managing people to overload, and I saw that there were the people. Not always, but it appeared that the people that did the most talking were not the people doing the work, and the people doing the work weren't listened to very often. And I thought it really bothered me. Then I saw just how much we ran this campaign where basically we took a survey of all the employees and asked them what they do in their free time, what else they're involved in. And we found out some of them had been professional baseball players and football players, and they were on the boards of nonprofits, and they were doing all these amazing things. And so we started putting them in media to talk about their hobbies and what they did and their stories. They never mentioned the company. They just happened to work there. And I was like, look at people were happier because they were being entrusted to help in a big way. And then the brand was benefiting because people want to work with companies that have good people. And I realized there that, the change that I kind of saw, my co-founder and I, and the opportunity that we saw, we couldn't make a difference from the inside. So we quit and started this company.
Wow. Hey, a lot of the most magical stories come from quitting and starting this company.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So you have Bell+Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
I know you do a lot of different things, but personal branding is a big part of it. So where would you say you spend most of your time today? Like what sort of projects are you working with your clients that take up the most of your time and your passion?
So so basically what our core focus is before we start giving you a marketing plan, before we start telling you what new things you have to be doing, we look at what you already have going for you. And we try to utilize your internal influence to make a difference first. Then we move on to strategic marketing. And so for our clients, we'll do employee branding for larger companies. We tend to work really well in areas that are regulated online. So, in insurance or banking, cannabis, things like artificial intelligence. If it sounds a little bit more complicated to tell the story, it's usually where we thrive.
Yeah.
And so for us, obviously those clients are the clients that have the biggest teams and the most complicated stories is where I personally end up spending more of my time. And then, we build out consulting strategies and the teams to pull that off and keep it moving forward. But it's amazing to take on occasionally founders of startups. And it's always, do we believe the person in charge of this, the person that we would be doing the brand, they can actually pull it off. And so we take on one or two every quarter and only one or two at a time. So it depends on where they're at. And that's always really interesting because if they listen to you, and most do, like how quickly, they can transform because being a founder of any startup, there comes with a large amount of insecurity because you're constantly asking people for something.
Yeah.
And personal branding takes a little bit of that weight off of your shoulders and allows you to make bigger moves faster. And I love seeing that.
That's a good way to look at it. I like your note about, to paraphrase part of it, is essentially, you essentially said, whenever it gets really complicated, I touch that stuff. So you're living in the complications, which can't be the easiest thing to do. What tips do you have for complex problem solving and to figuring out this, rubber band ball of problems?
Yeah, so when something's really complicated and you're trying to solve for the problem, the first thing you do is you identify all of the things that need to be solved, and then you find the people that can solve them, because there's no way you're going to do it all yourself. So that's first and foremost. Is what are the problems? What solutions need to be found? Can the current team handle it? And if not, who needs to be involved to make sure that it happens? And then structuring, the strategy around, all right, here are the people, here are the things that need to get done, here's the timeline, and these are the expectations. So that's where my co-founder and I spend our time, is looking at the scope of solving that organizational and tactical approach.
I see. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. What would you say is your favorite, like your absolute favorite part of your day to day? Like what gets you going, somersaulting out of bed, whatever you do every day?
Oh yeah. So many things. I think it's when we get to, again, it's this little relief, right? When you work with a company, because you're working with either a person who has been given a large task that is way too much, or you're working with a founder, whoever it is. And when you can see the solution and confidently say hey, it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? There's a moment of just, it's amazing. And then the little wins along the way are sometimes even more interesting to celebrate than the big ones. Because the big ones, it's you arrived, and to a sense, and the little ones is you just start to amp up over what's coming next.
In an example like this, what could be an example of a little win? Like what little things are you referring to?
A little win would be, let's say you're a startup founder and you need a certain type of person on your board of advisors, and you need to raise a certain amount of money, and it needs to be strategic. Something that we would do maybe is curate a panel at an event with a person, an identified person that could cover both. Getting them on that panel and sending them on their way and knowing they're in the conversation, that's a big win. They didn't get the money, they didn't get the person on the board, but knowing that we curated it to a place where like it's on them now, and watching like that, like those are little things. Or, the small successes with some of these startups, whether it's, we have an AI company that works with different robotics, and when they got their first robot, right, like they needed a partnership. And we had to figure out how to help them create this partnership so that they could get access to these robots. And like, it sounds so silly, but because we're talking about robots right now, but once those little steps are done, the people in the companies, the people internally, the projects, they can run with it. And then things just start to move so fast because the excitement's there. It's really fun.
Hey, no, I don't blame. I mean, everybody remembers getting their first robot, and so it's going to become more and more common.
Actually, so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's wild, but it's 20, 30 years from now, who knows what it's going to be. But you get very excited about personal branding and the projects that you work on with your clients and helping people get to that it's okay moment. It's going to be okay moment, and then excel well beyond that. Can you share with us some tips for personal branding? Like square one, like if somebody's behind a really, really cool company, or somebody has a wonderful story to share, but they're just in the grand scheme of things haven't developed their personal brand that much. What advice do you have there to really get things popping?
Yeah. So the first thing is you have to do an audit. You have to know what is out there about you, because what gets really confusing and kind of dilutes the whole process is when you don't know what you're creating. Because you have to start with what you have. And if you don't know what you have, you're just building on top of old stuff. And old stuff performs better on the internet. It's just a fact. So you have to like really go through and get an idea of what is out there. Like, how does the world currently see you? And I say, go check how advertisers have categorized you. Use tools like crystalnose.com. It scours the web and will give you your personality based on how you communicate online. See how other people see you, and then decide where you want to go. Now you have a direction to create a plan. That is the first step. And it's always the part that everyone wants to skip, because to be honest, it's either a little scary or really boring, and there's no way around that. So half the people need to get.
Sounds like a lose-lose.
It is, because if it's a situation where you need to get a bunch of stuff removed, it's very different than when there's nothing about you. And if you have a really common name, like my name, Cynthia Johnson, super common, you have a very different problem than when you have a very unique name. And so it's just looking at it from that lens. The second thing is decide what you like, where you want to be, and start just in one place, because once you've set everything up, set up all these accounts, leave them, pick one place. If you try to do everything too early on, you'll just end up doing nothing. And that's because if you're doing this because you want to grow a business or be successful at something, which is who we work with, you don't have the time to be on 7 platforms. You just don't. So, but you do have the time to curate an audience on one and then move them and transition them to another one if and when that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a key distinction there. I mean, we've seen so many companies do it over the years. Companies and people build such an audience on one, and then you can spread it to the other ones. So yeah, I totally subscribe to that. In terms of a strategy standpoint, so when planning like how you're going to present yourself and how you're going to get the word out about yourself, like how do you look at things from that perspective and say, all right, we've done this audit, we know how we're currently viewed, but how do we get the ball rolling and really start to create some buzz here?
Yeah, so the first thing is there's who you are, there's who you think you are, and then there's who you are on the internet. And so it's figuring out, there's 4 pillars basically. Here are your goals. You have your personal proof is basically everything that you've ever done in your life that makes you confident to do the next thing, and doesn't mean you necessarily had to do it. So, maybe you didn't have to go to college to be an entrepreneur, but you personally did because it made you feel better about being an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessary, but for you it was. So we look at that because it's important to understand the person. Then we look at social proof. What have you done that proves you can do this next thing? And then it's association. Who do you need to be next to look like you fall in line with these other people, right? Because you're trying to get into a space. And then recognition. What sort of recognition, whether it's, being, mentioned in something, or having column, or speaking, or winning an award, what recognition would set you apart from the people that you need to be associated with? And then who needs to see that to make sure you're moving to the next goal? In some cases, it needs to be investors. I need to be in front of a bunch of tech people. I'm a wealth manager. I need to be in front of all of these wealthy people to invest in X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. And then we curate the content around having a strategic opinion, and I always say simple, keep it, if you're a wealth manager, don't write about the most insane strategies you have for finance. Write about the small things in a clear, concise way. Because if you can convince other people that they understand it because they learned it from you, you have now become the expert. If you talk over their heads, they're never going to contact you. So think about the goal and, moving towards that direction. And, if you need to be in a list of, top people in some industry, well, who are the top people that who need to be in the list with you? Otherwise it just looks like you made a list.
Right. Like a list of one person.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you're not a writer, you don't want to be in these publications. The other thing is, if you curate content and share it with short opinions about it, people will follow you and think of you as the expert because you've curated their news specifically and they trust your opinion. So there's multi-level approaches to it. It really is important to figure out what you're comfortable with, because if the person doing this is not comfortable with the strategy they've chosen, it's just not going to work. At the end of the day, it's just personal.
It is. Okay. But ding, ding, ding. That's the buzzword there.
Yeah.
No, it really is. I think the part that jumped out to me is the who. You need to know who. It's kind of like thinking, from any marketing or branding standpoint, it's thinking about who your target audience is. The same thing applies from a personal brand standpoint. And I think that's something that a lot of people forget is they just start doing or start posting in a certain way or start blogging in a certain way. And you forget, holy shit, this needs to be more focused on this certain, audience that's really important and who you actually want to appeal to. So it's always a good reminder to think of that and to try to take in the content that you're creating from the, with empathy from the other side of things.
Yeah. And be honest about it. So if you're approaching it because everyone else is doing it, so you think you have to do it. Nah. In fact, I always say, flip it, just different and not stand out in the space by not doing everything exactly the way. Call out the elephant in the room.
And you wrote a book, a book platform, which covers a lot of stuff that you do on a daily basis and you've learned throughout your career. So, what was it that made you put this into book form in the first place?
Basically, I realized that there were a lot of books out there for personal branding for people who wanted to be internet famous or had time on their hands or were a certain personality type, very bold, wanted to film themselves all day. And then, and I did it, to an extent for myself without having to do any of that. And so I was like, okay, there's not a why for normal people or the basic steps of how, or a discussion around the importance for just someone who's doing it for a career advancement, who is wondering why, Elon Musk represents every form of science in any way when there's no possible way that he could be an expert in all of them. And the real scientists are sitting back going, wait, that's not right. He just said basically nothing. And so And so I wrote the book for those people, and the employees. The how do you do this without having to quit your job and be on YouTube all day and feel kind of like weird about it. So
right, yeah, nobody wants to feel weird about what they're doing all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that point. What's the main takeaway that you want people to walk away with? Like, is it more from the inspiration side or more tactical side? What's your biggest goal with this?
So it's definitely tactical. It starts with the why in a new way. So I want to, being pridefully humble still makes you prideful, and that it's, the internet is just really the evolution of your resume, and you need to know how to use it, and you need to use it strategically. It's no longer an option. And then on the tactical side, here's how to start. And then here's how to really look at yourself in a clear way on the internet. And then also, find ways to get feedback from other people without feeling like you're asking too much or you're being kind of a show off or vain. So it gets in for the second half of the book, it's more of the tactical end of how to do it. And the first half is really like examples of real case studies and just kind of the explanation of why I think you should do it.
It makes sense. Yeah. Well, I hope it would be that way. I mean, you wrote it, but I actually never heard that before, that the internet is really an evolution of your resume. I mean, I've heard it with LinkedIn, and now LinkedIn is obviously so much more than like just your resume, but it's really true. Like outside of LinkedIn, like if somebody's Googling you, it's not just LinkedIn, it's your website if you have one, it's articles about you, it's all these different platforms.
Your mugshot.
Yeah, your mugshot. Yeah, in my case, mugshot. If people like, they all factor into people's perception of you, and that's not to scare people. I mean, obviously, it's like a lot to consider, but it's true. People can learn about you in a variety of different ways, and so it is in a way taking that old school resume and evolving it to the point that just expanding it so much more and adding so much life to it. And it's going to continue to go that way as as the internet becomes, more and more part of our every millisecond.
I talk, which in the book I talk about it this way too, is seems to be helpful, is that the internet is like your credit score kind of, right? The only difference is when people look at your credit score, you know what they're going to see, you know what they want to see, you know why they're there. Like you get alerts. When people look you up online, you have no idea. You have no idea what they find. Or a lot of people don't, right? And you don't know what they're looking for. And not just looking up your name, like Google your own phone number, search for your own email address, see what is out there, because
look for your own mugshot.
Look for your mugshot, This friend of mine is he was known as like the Tinder hacker, and
really,
yeah, it's really actually funny, but he you could take someone's phone number from Tinder and search them and know things. So before you even go on a date, think about that. And also with credit, It's like having no credit is just as bad sometimes as having bad credit. That's true for the internet too. It's like handing someone a blank resume. It's like, you don't really exist. So just being mindful of that.
Right. And then just a note to everyone to, if they're in the area of your friend, to stay off Tinder, obviously, but.
Yeah, no, totally.
So you finally decide to start a podcast. Congrats. You've never been more excited. But wait a sec. You quickly find out this is way more of a time commitment than you initially thought. You're going to need someone that has you covered behind the scenes. That's where I come in. Email me at max@hippodirect.com and let's get wild. So let's switch it up a little bit. Let's switch gears here. We're going to go to a segment on inspiration and creativity. So first off, Cynthia, what do you do to stay creative?
Yeah, I mean, I have a very amazing team here. We work with lots of partners. What I try to do is, because creativity for me is, I can be creative, but it's usually a spark. It's like someone says something or I see something So I like to put things out into the world and then see what comes back, kind of, because
if it sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, because sitting around just like thinking about it is like, I don't know, it's not very creative for me. But going around and like and asking, and not like just strangest people, like calling my mom and dropping just this, craziest thing. She's like, "What are you even talking about?" Like 3 days later, she'll call me and be like, "I was thinking about it." I'm like, yes, it makes sense now. But yeah, I think you have, like, to be creative, you have to be getting new perspectives on things, and your creativity comes out of these new thoughts and ideas, or the response to it. And so definitely, yeah, staying conversational and asking for feedback and being brutally honest sometimes is the best way to stay creative, because being a good creative means being honest. And if you can't be honest, then your creative stuff is going to be garbage.
Yeah. Honest versus garbage. I think, which one would you rather have? Yeah, that's a good point. In addition to being brutally honest, what other hobbies do you have? How do you,
Yeah.
what do you do in your free time?
I go to the beach and I hang out with my husband and my dog. I do some game nights, and I do travel quite a bit. So that turns into fun sometimes.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I play Words with Friends with all of my friends' moms.
And not your friends, just your friends' moms?
It's literally just me and like all my friends' moms. Nobody else. It's amazing.
So you're the cool kid from their perspective then.
Yeah, I'm always like, "So I talked to your mom today." And she's like, "What?" So funny.
Yeah, I'm waiting for her turn. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's fun. All right. How about people? I mean, you mentioned your grandpa and your mom, and obviously they're very inspirational and influential for you, especially your grandpa with the, setting all his Guinness World Records and doing some of literally everything, it sounds like. But
yeah.
who else, like when you think about the business world or entrepreneurship world, who's inspiring to you? Like who keeps you going?
Yeah. So I think for me, there's different people for different reasons. I find people. Okay, first of all, I find, for the honesty side of things, I find Mark Cuban to be really interesting, because he will say, and he's just like so honest, and I love that. Because
he is. We went to Indiana, not at the same time. We both went to Indiana, so always had a close connection. Okay. But yeah, he's pretty. Love him or hate him, he's always on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'd also have to say, there's this woman, Barbara Messner. She's the new CMO at Walmart, and she was previously at Travelocity. She's insane. And this other woman, there's like Sarah O'Hagan, and Sarah, she was the CMO at Gatorade and Nike, like by the age of 27. She's also super crazy insane.
Wow.
Just like, people that they think at the core of a business, and they look at they see the buyer, they see the customer, they see the culture. Like, love that.
There's just such an amazing sense, like the holistic side of the business, but also just I feel like just so sharp and on top of things, and being able to roll out new strategies without like, debating it for years and stuff like that.
Oh, exactly. And just also they move on, like they do it and then they move on to do it again for someone else, because it's like, maybe they don't know it's their strength. And John Scully's like this too, with, creating the 2-liter Pepsi. And then moving into Apple, it's like do you know the story of the Pepsi 2-liter bottle?
I don't actually. Do you mind sharing it?
Yeah. So basically Coke owns the patent for the 1-liter bottle of like the shape, right? And so they were in all of these battles with Coke to get to be able to use the 1-liter bottle. And John Scully went on these runs, and he realized that when they were dropping off Pepsi to stores and people, they were always out of it. And he was like, well, if they're always out of it, why are we fighting to get this 1-liter bottle? Why don't we make a 2-liter bottle? and it worked. And then Coke was forced to work with them because now they needed the 2-liter bottle. And I just was like, that is so genius. So good. Yeah.
It is. And now, like, I mean, because 2 liters, obviously a household name. Everybody knows that, but no, I never knew that. How about on the resources side? Like, who would you say, like, do you listen to podcasts? Are you a book reader? What are your favorite things to consume from that standpoint?
Oh yeah. So I actually do some work with a company called the Millennium Alliance on their advisory board, and they do these Fortune 1000 like executive training, primarily in marketing. And so and a lot of the people contribute to their blog. And they have a podcast, and it's just interviews and content. And they talk about trending news, everything. Like it's just such a great source because they've created a hub with all the experts and at a high level. So I focus a lot of my time there. And then I read a lot of magazines because I find that if it's printed, it's the best, and it really is hard to, shuffle through a lot of the content online.
Yeah, there might be a little bit online, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then I read the news from places like Google Venture or Alphabet Ventures now, I guess. I look at what they're investing in. I look at, where the cash is moving, because you can learn a lot about what's coming up if you follow the money.
Definitely. Always is the case there.
Yeah.
So let's get to a fan favorite segment called the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a full symphony. Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. This is where we talk about a recent campaign that caught your attention. And you were mentioning something about meat in a way. You mind sharing that story? Yes.
Beyond Meat is it's a new vegan company. They have sausages and tacos, and what they did, first of all, was amazing. They got professional athletes, Snoop Dogg, and other people like that to go and discuss how much they love the product and how they support these vegan diets. So it was like personal branding, but reverse. And then they partnered with Carl's Jr. So they offer a vegan burger now at Carl's Jr. And I would never in a million years have eaten at Carl's Jr. until this campaign. So I find it very effective.
Really?
Yeah. They do tacos now as well. I think Del Taco was the next one, and then Hardee's, and then so it's just been rolling. But it's great because they weren't trying to, they looked at it differently, whereas like most of the vegan options, they said we're healthier and we're this and we're a certain whatever, and they sort of pigeonholed themselves into this like corner of health, maybe not, I don't know, it's in the weird section of the grocery store. And Beyond Meat was like, no, we're going to show people that people doing amazing things are not vitamin deficient. They're eating these vegan diets. And also you can go to a fast food restaurant and get a vegan burger. Like it's not about, having to become this like superhero health person, although, that's encouraged, but you can also just not eat meat and get your favorite things and it tastes good. So so they had this massive rollout. The campaign was done really, really well. I don't know, they recently IPO'd, and it's a very, very impressive strategy and a brand and marketing.
Yeah. Do you think that whole campaign was to get you to eat at Carl's? Because I think it is.
Well, it was so funny too, is that my dad was like, oh, I was flying into town. He was like, yeah, do you want Carl's Jr.? And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna Uber Eats Carl's Jr. And this is not something he would do, is Uber Eats fast food. And he's like, because it's the only vegan option, and I think you'd really like it. And I was like, so people who would never, and I'm like, it's just.
They inserted themselves in the conversation, but they got a response. I mean, from you got just the examples of your sharing. When you get somebody to start using a brand or eating a brand that they would never even consider, obviously it's something very, very strong. So they did it the right way. It didn't have a forced feel or anything. So I like your example there. Only a little bit of time left. Love to wrap up with a couple quicker segments. First one is called The Unusual. So pet peeves, quirks, and weird talents. So what's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, yeah. So I have so many. No,
You,
actually,
you could just list them if you want. We'll have a full, like a scroll or something. No.
really long emails. Just, just say, call me, the really long emails, unless it's absolutely necessary. Because it's just so much easier to communicate over the phone. And then like, if you need to send information, send like a document or something in a follow up, because what'll happen is I'll just open it and then I'm like, oh, I got to get to that. And then I save it and I never get to it. So that bothers me a little bit.
It messes up the to-do list. I totally get that. There's definitely a sweet spot there. How about quirks? Is there anything kind of quirky about your personality that your family or your team, somebody calls you out for as a little bit quirky?
Oh yeah, there's so many things. So I do have this habit where I will somehow just get this sudden boost of confidence and then do something really stupid. So if I'll walk into a glass wall, or like if I try to walk confidently, like, oh, I think I'm so cool, like through a crowd, I will 100% trip, or and something else will happen. It's just like a thing. So it's better for me to just lean into my awkwardness and not try to be that person.
I'm all about leaning into the awkwardness. Yeah, that's like a scene. I feel like that's like a movie scene, to just be all confident and bam, roll out, trip over something. Yeah, always happens. It's hard to walk these days. Anyway, weird. How about weird talents? Anything that now? I mean, I know you did so many different things as a child. How about nowadays? Anything that's sort of you're just like really, really good at, but it doesn't necessarily impact your business?
Yeah, I can shake my eyes back and forth really fast.
Oh, like really fast.
Yeah, like really fast, like micro speed.
Oh yeah. Is that so? I might have the same thing. I'm not sure. So can people, like when people are looking at your eyes, can they see that or no?
Yeah.
Oh, they can? Okay.
Yeah, cool. I can't see it. I get blurry because of shaking.
Okay. Okay. So I have that part, but I've showed that to people and I'm like, look, and they're like, what? like they, so obviously you're better at it than I am, but I know what you mean with like the blurry thing, but yeah, that's fine. I hadn't thought about that in a while. So that's your ultimate superpower. So now you got to figure out something to do with that.
It'll at some point be useful. I'm not quite sure when. Like maybe
it's coming.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be like if you're in a black hole and you can shake your eyes really fast, you can see like where you're going. Whatever it is.
Read my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spot on. Yeah. All right. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get wild. My eyes are shaking. What is your favorite place you've ever lived?
Oh, where I live right now in Marines already. I'm married, I have a dog, and I live between my office, the airport, and the beach, and it's perfect.
The perfect trifecta there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right. How about if there was one band that you had to see in concert every single night for the rest of your life? What band or singer, who would it be?
Oh gosh. The Counting Crows.
Okay. Yeah. Throw a question mark on their name. No. Okay. So you better, I hope you enjoy them. So you'll have a fun concert tonight and tomorrow and etc. But how about, same idea, movie? If you could only watch one movie for the rest of your life, every time you turn on the TV or Netflix or whatever you use.
Oh, it's gotta be, it's like a really strong tie between The Matrix and Back to the Future.
Wow. All right. So some sci-fi interest, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe since it's a tie, you can watch like the first half of The Matrix and then the second half.
Oh, you never get to the end. That would be so great. That'd be so frustrating.
Yeah. Good thing these are hypothetical.
Yeah.
All right. And then you mentioned you like magazines. What is your favorite magazine to read?
Oh, I like The Philosopher. It comes out quarterly. You can find it in airports. It's like a few years old. It's curated content, a new topic every quarter.
Very philosophical. I like it. All
really
right.
Interesting, yeah.
All right. Who doesn't like interesting? So, Cynthia, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your background and all your amazing talents, including the eye thing. Where's the best place for people to connect with you and your brands and your company?
Yeah, so you can connect with me at Cynthia Live on Instagram or Twitter, and it's cynthialive.com, and Cynthia at cynthialive.com is my email. And then for our company, it's Bell+Ivy.com and Cynthia at Bell+Ivy.com.
Sweet. And last thing here, send us off whatever way you want it. It can be a quote, it can be a phrase, it can be, say the alphabet backwards or something, whatever you want. Final thoughts, up to you.
Oh, okay. I'll say a quote because, well, why not? Stupidity is a talent for misconception.
ZOXWVUTSRQPONMLKJISGFEDCBA. Whew! Just needed to get that off my chest. Thank you so much to Cynthia for coming on the podcast, and thank you, Wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you're enjoying the Wild Business Growth podcast but are having to search for it every time there's a new episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we make it easier for you. While you're there, we of course appreciate any 5-star reviews. Let me know when you do, and I will leave a 5-star review of your choice. I just might. You can also check out our business growth and marketing resources at hippodirect.com/blog and hippodirect.com/newsletter. That newsletter is the Hippo Digest, and it is your place for wild marketing ideas every single week. And last but certainly not least, come connect with us on social media at the handles Hippo Direct and Max Branstetter. If you're lucky, you'll get a pun. You'll definitely get some hippos. Sometimes you get hippo puns, and there's much more where that came from. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!